Welcome everyone to CADA Lunch and Learn. Thank you for joining us for a 30-minute lunch debate. As you may know, we're retail, grocery and hospitality experts, and we love sharing our thoughts and ideas with you. So with just a little housekeeping, everyone's going to be muted. I will encourage you to put all your questions into the chat and we'll run through them later. We have two speakers today, Dan and Sarah, that you can see on your screens right now.
Hello.
Hiya.
Today, we're going to discuss checkout-free stores. Do they meet a genuine customer need, or are there better ways to answer convenience? I'm going to kick off and ask the first question. What is the point of checkout-free stores? Please tell me.
Well, thank you very much, Meher. I think the point is that this technology that's evolved very quickly over the last sort of 3 or so years, really, in terms of gaining some ground in retail, and particularly in the grocery sector, is that it solves grocery's biggest pain point, both from a brand and from a customer point of view. Queuing at the till is the thing that everybody hates. Brands hate it because it's not, it's giving customers a disappointing or a frustrating experience. Customers hate it because it feels like a waste of time. You've put all of your items in your basket or in your trolley. You've got to queue up and wait to be served. You've then got to take everything out of your basket or trolley. It's then got to be scanned by someone. You've then got to put it all back in bags and back in whatever it is to leave the store. So it's a really complicated, painful and messy process. And in fact, what this technology does is effectively allow you to get rid of this biggest pain point. And it's something that's really interesting, because even 3 years ago, when we were talking to supermarkets or grocers, when we were talking about this part of the customer journey, the briefs that we got were always about minimizing the pain, making it less bad, not about how could we get rid of this. Nobody ever thought that we'd be able to get rid of this process. There's always going to need to be a method of calculating payment. We look, whether it's a manned till or even self-service checkouts, which have also got a lot better over the last 5 years. There's still a laborious process for customers. So the brilliance of this is that effectively or potentially this pain point is gone, and it means that as a customer you can breeze through the store. You can arrive, you check into the store, go through some barriers, pick up what you want, put the purchase that you choose in your own bag, and then at the end of the journey, you walk out with your own bags, with your own products, and off you go the rest of your day. So it seems fantastic. So
I think, as far as what I'm hearing, Dan, it unequivocally brilliant. Nothing, what's not to like? Let's all sign up.
Well, yeah, I think in principle, Sarah, absolutely right. If it all works the way that it should, and what we've got to remember is that actually there's probably only a couple of hundred checkout-free stores in the world, certainly less than 500. So it's very much in its infancy. And what it needs to do to work is to be cost-effective and make sense to roll out, and also customers need to want it. And I think that's where we've got to remember is that this technology at the moment is just being trialed and tested. Nobody is doing it with a way that is currently making them money, and nobody's doing it at a scale that proves that it makes perfect sense for all your customers and your different customer journeys. I think probably Zabka in Poland, alongside Amazon, are the people who are furthest ahead. Zabka have opened about 25 nano stores in the last year, and they're looking at different formats there. So they've not done 25 cookie cutter stores. They're all small, they're all C-stores. So they're either, containers that are lift and drop that go into a place where there wasn't a store, a standard convenience store, and some shop in shops. And they've got a small number of SKUs, so between about 500 and 1,500 SKUs each. But what they are doing is they're, at least, like Amazon, they're going to be learning. They're going to be learning how customers interact with these stores, what's good and bad about them, and where there is the most benefit.
So do you think the most benefit, you touched on whether shoppers really want it, are they going to show a marked preference for this means of acquiring their groceries? The obvious problem that it solves is it takes away the queuing, which takes your time. So it's fundamentally a time-saving solution. Are there other problems that checkout free can solve in terms of giving customers access? So checkout free at the moment, just walk out, it's giving customers access to their time, it's giving them their time back, but can it also give them access to, give people in rural communities access to fresh produce, for example, that they wouldn't ordinarily have without having to drive for miles, and really plan their shopping into their week? Does it give them back a bit of spontaneity? There's some nice examples. That the best example I found is in Sweden, a chain called Leafs, which is currently the largest unmanned grocery chain in Europe. Not that there's a huge amount of competition. And again, it's containers mainly. There are two sizes, so a larger one and a smaller one, and they can be lifted from one place to another. There's obviously some kind of permit process to go through, and then there's the power and so on. But other than that, it's quite quick. They've opened 20 since they've opened since they started in 2018. And apparently there's been heavy lobbying from communities in these remote parts of Sweden, because it's giving people access to fresh groceries that they just didn't have before. And it strikes me that, I should have explained, the reason they work well is because they're unmanned. So there's no cost, there's no staffing costs to worry about, which is why they work, why they're sustainable for the retailer, as well as useful for the shopper. But apparently there's going to be another 100 or so planned in these rural communities, because they're so popular. And what they're doing here is they're not necessarily giving you, they're open 24 hours, so they allow for different patterns of shopping. It's not just about, that kind of 9 till 9 core period. You don't need that density of population to make them work financially.
Sure.
So they're giving that geographical reach, they're giving access, they're not saving time, but they're sort of saving people's lifestyles, aren't they?
I think the two key points there about, that this technology potentially does open up is places where, from either a time or a geographical point of view, it wouldn't have made sense to put even a small traditional convenience store, either because, pardon me, the number of customers is too low, or the shopping habits around that place are too spread out. And what I'm thinking of there is places like university campuses or office parks, where you may be working on a 24-hour basis, and actually in some places you could have a store, but like you said, you'd still close at 9 o'clock, but you're then not serving those people for the 12 hours when the store is shut. Or it could be that you're putting a store somewhere that wouldn't have been viable before, as you said, because the staff costs make it too high and your return is too low. So that's really interesting, because it extends brands' reach into new places. It allows brands to think differently about format and location and position, and how close you can actually get to customers if your fixed costs are lower. Now, again, this all comes back to this technology being scalable and effective and affordable, and what people want. So there are some big boundaries to overcome, but we can see how it can start to change the landscape, particularly of grocery, and also how these things are then being trialed in other places. iFi, who are one of the big providers of this technology alongside Amazon themselves and Trigo, they're working, they've been doing some stuff with Verizon in the States, where they're putting effectively containerized stores into festivals. So some of it is maybe a bit of a gimmick, because it's about shopping in a different way in a festival, and they're providing you with basic groceries, food, drink, snacks, and then apparel and some other simple kind of branded items, and all of those things are barcoded and pre-packed, so there's no. We'll come on to apparel being a challenge in a bit, but there's a way of doing it. But I think that it's what they're really doing is just trying to understand where this technology has benefit and can reach people.
It's interesting you mentioned, being a gimmick. Something the Co-op is trialing here in the UK is using containerized stores when a store is being refurbished, so that they don't lose those customers in that area during the refurbishment time. That's where the containerized store can really come into its own and be really useful. The other one that occurred to me is the Albert Heijn convenience concept at Schiphol Airport. So you simply scan your bank card at the entrance, you walk in, you take what you want and leave, and that the friction is about as minimal, I think, as with anything. You don't even need to sign up for an app with this one. And the idea with that apparently is that it feels the same as taking something from your fridge or from your own cupboard. They're trying to get as close as possible to that sort of experience. Whether that works for every customer, we don't know, because some customers aren't going to like the fact that they don't know how much they're spending, that there isn't a way of, until you look at your bank account and see what's been debited, or with something like the new pilot stores that all the main supermarkets have got it here in London. You receive your receipt a few hours later, and that's not going to work for some people. Or if there's a problem with what they've been charged for something that they haven't purchase.
I think you're right. I think
maybe not quite. It's not quite so workable.
The technology needs to solve needs to get the right amount of friction, and it needs to be much more kind of instantaneous in the sense that you're right. If it takes a couple of hours to get a receipt, there's a period, which it does at the moment. In most of these technologies, there's a period of limbo, or kind of lack of confidence, effectively, when the customer doesn't know if everything's all right or not. And I think the other piece about friction that's really important when you're shopping is that giving customers the confidence when they pick something up and put them in their basket, put it in their bag, they've been charged. If they take it out, they've not been charged. And at the moment, that's on trust, because right now, this technology doesn't constantly update your app or your screen or whatever you've got with a running total of what you're buying and how much it's costing. Now, you can't, at the moment, that doesn't happen anyway. If you could argue quite sensibly that a traditional shopping mission, you're having to do most of the rental arithmetic as you go around if you want to know what you're spending. So it's no different. But I think that once you've taken this fundamental pain point away, i.e. if the queuing is gone, then and that frustration goes, then I think customers are very quickly going to say, well, why can't the technology tell me what I'm spending right now? Yes.
Scan and go.
Yeah, exactly.
As you walk around, it tells you exactly how much you've spent. So it's why can't the two be integrated together?
Exactly. Easy to say, but very hard technologically to solve. Is that we should be in a position where in a year or two you can walk around a store looking with your phone, understanding exactly what you're purchasing in real time, exactly how much you've spent, and that will give customers more confidence to keep spending, to moderate their spending, and build trust with the brand that they're shopping with as well.
Or to take advantage of this beautifully merchandised promotion because they know they can afford it. It's within their budget. And I think we touched on it earlier this week. Everyone's budgets are going to be squeezed in the next however many months and years. So
absolutely,
this is going to start becoming of concern to customers who perhaps were much more laissez-faire about it up until now. We've talked largely about grocery so far. Do you think this technology is particularly relevant to grocery? Is it only really useful in a grocery context?
I think queuing is the big pain point in grocery, and a lot of other, in a lot of other retail situations, different points in the market, it's not. And in fact, in other retail contexts, service and serving and the point of purchase and the closing of that sale is a really important part for the place where the brand has contact and has builds a relationship with its customer, and that should be a really pleasant closing before you leave the store. So in certain, and this is where I get caught out and be proven completely wrong. So I'm now saying that, from a luxury point of view, it won't catch on because an important part of luxury is interaction and service. And in fact, luxury brands are moving more at the moment in towards experience and away from pure retail in space. And the best way to deliver great experience is great service, whatever that service looks like. However, I also thought that 20 years ago that luxury brands would never sell online because you had to go into the store to experience it and get that service. And I was completely wrong. Net-a-Porter proved me completely wrong by bringing service principles into online shopping. So I could be wrong, but I don't think luxury, but also it's not just luxury, it's places like Lush as well. Other brands that are known for good customer service, great interaction between staff and customers,
recommendations,
should retain that because that's their point of difference. And this technology creates a great efficient level playing field, but it doesn't allow you that level of interaction. So we were talking about Primark as well, and on the surface, I think Primark is a great opportunity because it's another place that's very busy, very hectic, with huge queues. And Sarah, your point the other day was that they've come out and said, already that they can't afford to make home delivery stack up. Their margins are too tight, so they can't do delivery. So this is potentially a way of making the retail experience for brands like Primark, fast moving, high turnover, volume brands, a better, more efficient, more pleasurable experience.
And it gives them more of their store footprint back because they don't have
to
give all that space over to cashiers. But having said that, how does the technology work? How do the sensors work? When you pick clothes up, you don't bag them, you don't put them in a basket. You hold them up, you look at them, you might then put them back somewhere else. So perhaps it's that the sensors and the camera tech just doesn't function in the same way. How do you distinguish between two very similar blue and white check shirts.
Absolutely.
But that are in the customer's eyes are going to be fundamentally different. But as far as the camera is concerned, is it a medium? Is it a small?
That's really, two really important points. One is actually about the customer journey. Your first point is that typically, although Primark do encourage people to take bags, a bit like TK Maxx, try and get you to buy more, have something that you're going to fill up. Most clothing, most apparel purchasing is not done with a bag or a basket or a trolley. It's done with your hands. And so therefore, that's the first problem to overcome, is that you've got to change people's shopping habits so that they're putting something in a receptacle rather than just having it over their arm before they try it on, and all of those pieces. The other bit that you point out is absolutely spot on, is that how do I know as a system whether this medium blue t-shirt, whether this blue t-shirt someone's trying to buy is medium or small, because there's only 1.5 centimeter difference in the sizing, so the weight will be negligibly different, so the system cannot, I don't believe the technology is sufficiently accurate yet to be able to manage that inventory level kind of decision of what's being bought, because the customer doesn't care whether they're buying a large or a small, but your retailer wants to know from a replenishment point of view, wants to know exactly what's selling. So I think that's a real challenge. The
interesting one on this is what will happen with Amazon Style. So they've just opened their new store in LA, which is about 30,000 square foot, and it is checkout free. But there are still lots of humans working in that store. And what they've done is they've looked at the customer journey and they said, what's the boring bit? It's raking through racks and racks of clothing looking for your size, and then it's queuing for a fitting room because there are only 5 available, and then it's queuing to pay. So let's see how we can just remove those elements, so that you use the app and you walk around the store and you see the styles and you request what you'd like to try on in whichever sizes, and then you receive a notification when your personal changing room is ready, and there's about 40 of them, so the likelihood of waiting is massively reduced. You try on whatever you want. If you want to order more sizes, more styles, you simply do it from the fitting room, and then you don't queue to pay. You pay through the app, but someone will put it in a bag for you. Or I think you can pay through palm recognition. But the interesting thing about this is Amazon is obviously doing it as part of its usual test and learn philosophy. Let's see how this works. Let's have a go, and let's see what we can learn from it as a business. And it's that sort. I really admire it. That willingness to try and to be brave and to see what comes out of it, really, see what learnings can be.
And I think we talked a little, I think you're absolutely right. I think, and Amazon won't care if it works or doesn't work, because they'll be gathering data, they'll be understanding how their customers behave and interact.
And of course, they have a huge budget allocated to, their business is set up in a certain way that allows them to, conduct these, let's be honest, expensive, and well-researched, but still experiments.
But they care about the data more than they care about turnover in that sense, in those contexts, which is why they're doing so many different things.
So what about cost? Is it ever going to make sense?
Well, that's the big, instinctively, I think it will, because, if we get to a place where we've proven that customers like it, want it, it has benefits, it allows your brand to go places where it wouldn't otherwise go, then there's potentially a huge market for this technology to be rolled out in a massive way across grocery particularly. And that means that the cost should come down and down and down until it's...
I think it already has.
At least cost, it is, but it's very hard to get any public data at the moment. So it's very hard to actually find out what the true costs are. But as long as it gets cost neutral, as long as we get to the point where it doesn't cost any more than fitting out a store with a bank of tills or self-service tills, and the staff required to operate them, then yes.
Or these other alternatives that we've seen, like a bit like the Amazon Dash cart, the Imager, the intelligent trolley, which can, so instead of having to retrofit a store, you simply use an intelligent trolley to walk around the store. You bring the technology in, and customers are using it to show.
I mean that's really interesting.
But we don't know the cost of that either.
No, and again, they're still early phase startups. So it's basically the idea behind that is that you put the tech, rather than putting it around the whole store and fitting out a store to be interactive, you focus on the trolley or the basket, and that's where all the cameras, that's where all the sensors are, and that they're recording what's happening as the products go into the basket. Now that's in some ways is more interesting, because that does allow you to then get a real-time update on an app as to what you're purchasing. So that solves that piece as well. But again, from a comparative cost point of view, I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we can judge which one's going to work.
Wow, this is amazing. I don't think I could have stopped you guys. Okay, so I've got a curveball question, and I'm going to ask it while everyone gets their questions in, if they have any, for the last few minutes. So you spoke about, comparing the different types of sensors and things that are available.
Mm-hmm.
This is, if I'm not wrong, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this just walk out, check out free style store has come and it's coming up at the same time as these fast, these 10-minute delivery kind of situations.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm seeing it right in the market, the shopping size of both, the size of things that people will buy or the amount is quite similar. It's small shops, quick shops,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. Is there a space where these guys are competitors? So it would almost be like Amazon Fresh versus Get Here kind of situation.
Yep.
Is there a space where they can both thrive? What do you guys think?
Or will they eat each other, you mean?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, yeah, because they're both trying to solve the convenience issue, or improve people's convenience, improve how they shop. And I think one thing immediately that where Just Walk Out or Checkout Free has an advantage is Sarah's point about not needing to be in dense urban environments. I believe that rapid delivery only works in densely populated urban environments where you can get close to your customers so you can deliver in sub 10 or 15 minutes. And you need a huge density of population for that to make financial sense as from a business model point of view. The other advantage that checkout free stores have is that you're still getting your customers to do a lot of the hard work. Your customers are still coming in and picking off your shelves and then taking the product away. So that so they're doing all the heavy lifting. Whereas the rapid delivery and Q-commerce brands have someone who has to go and pick, has someone who has to go and deliver to the door. So there is always going to be an operational cost impediment in terms of like-for-like comparison because they've got extra staff. Actually, I think rapid delivery is a really interesting area. I think we're going to be talking about that in our next webinar in a month's time. So let's not say too much more about it now, but there's potentially space for both, but I think if I was betting, I would bet on Just Walk Out.
Yeah.
/ Checkout Free. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a comment from Trey Webb. Hello, Trey. Thank you for joining. Shrink is a big factor in the clothing experience. FMCG is generally not tagged. Clothing is tagged, adding in a step to overcome. Similarly, JWO and SAYS, I don't know what SAYS is, I hope you guys do, are currently specific to demographics in uptake. What is the accessible need for customers who sit outside of this fairly narrow bandings?
Yeah, I think I make some great...
Scan as you shop, that's what SAYS is. Thank you,
Trey. Yeah, I think, first of all, the apparel point that you make about security tags and shrinkage is an important one. We could argue that the current technology where you've got a gated retail environment does away with that, but we know how determined thieves can be, and particularly when you've got higher ticket items, that's going to be a challenge. So I think you would still need to retain security systems at product level. And what I think we look at there is that we'd have to look at how grocery are dealing with age-restricted items. So medicine and alcohol at the moment have to go through an additional process. So you need to verify the age for alcohol, and in fact, with medicines is maybe a more interesting one, is that when we were working with Aldi on their store that opened at Shop and Go that opened in Greenwich in London in January, the decision was taken with medicines, with painkillers, that they put a dummy packaging out that you then need to go and see someone who's going to then check your age, check the number that you're buying, complies with local laws, and then give you the product at the end of that customer journey. So there's a clunkiness there, as you can see, because it does take away the immediacy of it. I think also that and with alcohol, there's bits of technology that are looking at age verification, which will, I think, again, in a couple of years, will be strong enough and clear enough to mean that I know, or the technology knows either who I am and that can verify who I am and that I'm over 18 or over 21, depending on 25, depending which territory you're in, and can buy alcohol, or the facial recognition and age recognition technology is sufficiently advanced that retailers are confident enough to lean on the fact that that camera can tell that I am a sprightly 27 rather than 53 I may look.
Whatever it is that banks are using, NatWest currently makes me it makes me blink into a facial recognition kind of device, if I just want to authorize a regular payment. So there's stuff out there that presumably could be deployed.
I think it will, and it will come down to the maturity of technology and how this all ties together, because again, it's like once you take away the big pain point of checkouts, then all these other little irritations suddenly become much bigger in customers' minds because it's not as seamless as I wanted it to be.
Grateful.
Amazing. But it seems that our thoughts are quite far ahead than what the technology.
I think, you know, the technology
not created. Sorry, the technology probably exists. We just, at a commercial level, there's no access to it. So I think that there is that element as well.
For sure. I think, you know, the point is that the technology is stable enough and it works well enough that we're seeing it being trialed globally. We're seeing these experiments, but there are then all these other pieces that fit around it that are about taking out pain points or providing, again, the right amount of friction so people feel confident. And I think to come back to the second part of Trey's point, which is about, from a demographic point of view, how is this going to work for those people who don't even have smartphones, you know, or don't feel comfortable shopping on an app, or don't feel comfortable, you know, there are real challenges here. And it may be that actually what we end up with is blended retail, where there's an optional way of shopping like this, and there are still some checkouts, whether they're self-checkout or manned. We know that I think it's Netto and Rewe in Germany have both in their trials, they have opened stores where there are still checkouts. So they've not gone for the complete just walk out experience. And again, this will be about gathering information. You know, some retailers will want it to be a pure experience so that you force people to go through it in these early stages to gather that information, whereas others will be more cautious and be thinking, well, we don't want to alienate our customers. Let's find out how if we give people the choice, do we have 40%, 50%, 60% take up of this technology or not? So, you know, there are these learnings will go on for 2 or 3 years, but we absolutely have to be careful that we don't use technology to disadvantage people who aren't comfortable or aren't able to shop using it. There still must be easy, affordable, and simple ways for everybody to have access, particularly when we're talking about grocery, when we're talking about stuff that we've got food and drink, there's a fundamental need for. And whether there needs to be any sort of legislative protection as if this moves into real mainstream rollout, I don't know, but it will vary from territory to territory. And that, you know, we haven't got time to talk about it here, but then again, we're going to get into data protection and privacy laws as you start to roll out as an international brand. Each territory will have different requirements. So there's a lot of behind the scenes complexity that needs to be thought about and dealt with.
Amazing. Okay. Last message from Trey. Age verification is interesting as the law is still catching up with the art of the possible. The retail and/or tech industries need to demonstrate safety and lobby for change. Agreed. This is amazing. This topic could go on to a second part. I may even arrange it. So thank you, everybody. It's 1 o'clock. I'm not going to keep you any longer. But we'd like to thank you for joining us. And as you saw my little plug and my little question before, we are doing Q-commerce for rapid delivery in our next month's webinar. So we hope you can all join. You will get an exclusive early bird invite. I mean, I don't know why it's early bird. It's just, you know, these are free. We hope you can all join. Thank you everyone for joining, and we will see you very much. Have a great day.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.